Okay. All right. So, so students will start off from where we stopped last week. We'll start off from where we stopped last week. Okay. Just wanted to give you a small reconciliation of what we discussed last week, right? So, very specifically, students, we were actually discussing about the production process, right? We were very specifically discussing about the production process, right? Or else we can call it as the input output process, right? Right? Input output process, right? Or else we can call it as the transformation process. So I told you all sometimes the same concept will be uh, named with the use of some other words. So don't complicate yourself, right? Make sure that you keep all those synonyms or the similar words in your mind so that you won't be in trouble. Okay, so I've given you all the words, right? All the phrases: production process, transformation process, input output process, all are being known for the same concept. Okay, right. Now, students, very specifically in the production process, right? Very specifically in the production process, right? What happens? What happens to the production process at the very beginning? You input, right? Right. You input, right? You input what? Resources. Right? You input resources. Or in other words, right? We input factors of production. We input factors of production, right? Factors of production, right? 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 So as you all know, these factors of production or resources are scarce. Ne? අපි කියනවා සම්පත් හිඟයි කියලා කියනවා, right? So in that case, you have to use these resources in a way that it won't lead to any wastage. Okay, you have to keep that thing in your mind. Okay, right. And then these factors of production will be put into a process, right? These factors of production will be put into a process. In that process, there'll be lots of things will be happening, additions, right? uh, 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 Processors are there, right? Different functions are there to handle those processes, right? So this is where the conversion happens. This is where the conversion happens, where where these resources are in its original format, but those has to be converted or transformed. In that you add value. Okay, and then at the end of the process we get the output, right? We get the output, which is very specifically the products, right? Which is very specifically the products. You all know products has two elements, right? You have goods and services. That of course we discussed at the very beginning, right? So don't worry, students. Actually, now after discussing this entire process, I will be taking you through a very practical example of how the production process work in a particular industry, right? In a particular industry, it's a very practical example. So I will teach you when we go to the latter part of this session. Okay, right. So anyway, last week we were actually discussing about factors of production. Under factors of production, we discussed about land and we discussed about labor, right? Those two resources we fully completed discussing, and we need to take things forward from the next resource, which is called capital. Okay, right. So we'll move on to the note, students, right? Right, right. So our plan is actually finish off discussing inputs, right? We're going to discuss all the inputs one by one. And then we are going to move on to the discussion of business function, where the transformation is happening. And then this, of course, we have already discussed the products. Okay, right. So that's how we are going to plan our today's work. All right. Okay. So before we take things forward, students, physical students, online students, do you all have any clarification? Just to clarify based on the things that we have discussed as of now. Or else, can I get a small thumbs up so that I could take things forward? Go ahead. If you all have any questions, please ask. Online students, is everything okay? All clear, right? Okay, fine, good. Physical students, is everything all right? Yes? All right, okay, fine. So let's take things forward then. We'll start from capital, right? Right, okay, right. We'll start from capital, okay, right. Capital, okay, right. So capital is students, right? If you take capital, right? අපි සිංහලෙන් කියනවා මේකට ප්‍රාග්ධනය කියලා කියනවා, right? ප්‍රාග්ධනය, right? ප්‍රාග්ධනය, right? ප්‍රාග්ධනය, right? ප්‍රාග්ධනය, okay, right? So in accounting also, we learn a lot about capital, right? In your financial statements, you see capital, right? In numerical figures, right? Okay, right. So in that case, students, what is capital exactly, right? We'll first read what is capital, right? So as we always do, underline the most important ones. Capital is money and other resources, money and other resources, right? Money and other resources invested by the business to earn profits are known as capital, right? Okay. So capital means, students, very simply, right? This is what we invest to a business. This is what we invest to a business, right? Sometimes when you are starting a business, you might invest money that you have, the money that is being saved, or some investors will come and invest money. That's only one type of capital, right? On top of that, students, right, you don't have to start a business actually invest capital. While you are doing business also, you can invest in other resources, right? Right. Yeah. You can invest in a building, right? You are adding a new building to your business organization, or you are adding, let's say, a new factory to your business organization, right? Right. Or else you are adding some machines, you are buying some machines to your new factory, you are buying some vehicles, right, for your business organization, right? Those are captured under these other resources, money and other resources, right? Money and other resources, these are invested in your business for what? That's the main thing. Now we invest capital, right? We invest capital not for the personal use of the individuals who is inside the business, right? No, not for the personal use. We invest capital for what? For the benefit of the business, for the use of the business, so that the business could use these types of capital. It could be money, machines, vehicles, factories, buildings. For what? To earn money or return or profits for the business organization. That's the most important part, right? In a business organization, capital should be used by the business to generate revenue and at the end of the day, profits, right? Right. Or else the directors in the business organization, they cannot use the vehicles given to them for their own personal use. And that is not capital. That is given to them, right? Right. So that's the most important thing. Capital is actually invested to the business for the use of business so that the business could generate a return out of it, right? A business organization will have machines. Through those machines, production will come out. That production will be sold and then converted into money, no, isn't it? Right? The vehicles of the business organization will be used to transport goods, not only goods, raw material, or the employees of the business organization. That brings return for the business organization. Because if you don't bring raw material on time, can you do your production? No, you can't. If you don't do your production, can you sell something? No, you can't. Right? The buildings that you have will safeguard the employees, the machines inside. So the building will help to run the processes, to run the production, to run the business activities, right? The money, very important, the most liquid cash, right? It will be used, invested in the business for the growth of the business. Okay, right? So students, capital is that, right? So basically, I have given you some examples: buildings, machinery, industrial goods. Now you know what are industrial goods. We were discussing about the classification of goods. Under that, we discussed about industrial goods, right? Under that, we discussed about industrial goods, which are used in producing consumer goods and services, are categorized under capital. That I told you. Capital is used for the production process or for the day-to-day activities of the business to produce, and then these products will be sold to the consumers out in the market, right? So students, very specifically, now these things might be tested in your exam. These things might be tested in your exam. When it comes to capital, there are two types of capital, right? Right? In general, there are two types of capital that we need to identify. The first type of capital, we call it as fixed capital. What do you mean by fixed capital? What do you mean by fixed capital? Right? Now, in your, when you're, if you are doing accounting, in accounting, you have uh, under non-current assets, right? You put some assets, right? Right. Right. So fixed capital means these are the assets that will have a long lifetime, right? That will have a long lifetime, right? Now, as an example, in your business organization, you have buildings, right? Right. Right. You build a nice office, right? You have a building. So that building will be there for a foreseeable future. Ne? If you build, if you construct a building, right? I mean, you won't lose it next year, no. It will stay for a long period of time, right? So those are called fixed capital, right? Right. Those are called fixed capital. And then we have machines, right? You can write the examples also, right? You can write the examples, right? You have buildings, right? Right. Then you have machines. Yes, machines is also another example for fixed capital, right? So you'll be using those machines for a foreseeable future, 10 years, 15 years. No, you'll be using those machines, right? Sometimes if you go and work in certain organizations, right, certain machines are there which are older than you also, right? Those machines have been there in the business from the inception itself, right? Long life, long lifetime, right? Right. What else we have? Lands, yes, right, right. The factories, the factories, the vehicles, yes, right. Vehicles, all those things are coming under fixed capital. As per the word says, these are fixed, which means it signifies that these assets will last for a long lifespan. Okay, so that is called fixed capital. So normally this fixed capital will be captured under non-current assets uh, in your balance sheet, statement of financial position. No, yeah, in your balance sheet, right? In your balance sheet, you'll be capturing these fixed capital under non-current assets. You put what you call land, buildings, machines, all are captured under non-current assets in your balance sheet, right? In your balance sheet or the statement of financial position, right? In your balance sheet, right? Right. Right. Look how business studies is connecting with accounting. No, right. So that's a combination of these subjects, right? It's a very nice to see that. Okay, right. So students, now we were discussing about the first type of capital. Okay, now we'll move on to the second type of capital. I told you there are two types. There are two types. What is the second type of capital? Right. So, Evan, what's the second type of capital? We call it as what? Working capital. We call it as working capital. We call it as working capital. What do you mean by working capital? It's different from fixed capital. Let's look at the definition and see what do you mean by working capital. Working capital means these are the assets which are necessary for the day-to-day business activities. There are certain business assets. There are certain assets in your organization, students. You should have those assets at any cost for you to run your day-to-day business operations, right? For you to run your day-to-day business operations, right? As an example, like what? Like cash, right? Cash, right? Right? Cash, right? Why? When you're running your business, every day you need cash, right? You need cash on a daily basis to, let's say, buy material, right? Or else to pay off certain suppliers, right? You need cash. You need cash, right? Right? Cash is an asset that we need on a daily basis for our day-to-day business operations, right? Then what else we have? Stocks. If you take stocks, no inventories, right? If you take stocks or inventories, right? On a day-to-day business operations, right? You need to have enough material, right? Now you might be having your factories, you might be having your employees and everything is in place. Vehicles are there. But without material, can you start your production? No, you can't, right? You just have to look up and say. You just have to look up and say because you don't have material, you don't have enough stocks to run your day-to-day business operations. So stocks is another important element coming under working capital, coming under working capital, right? Coming under working capital. So it's very important, right? Now, can you see these are the two types of capital, which is fixed capital and working capital. Fixed capital, right, is actually these are the assets that will last for a long period of time. But if you take working capital, these are the assets that will be used in a day-to-day business operation. Now, if you look at their lifespan also, it changes on a daily basis. Okay? Not like the fixed capital, right, which will be there for a foreseeable period of time. But if you take these working capital, cash and stocks, every single day those things will change, right? Cash coming in, cash going out, right? In the morning you would have 100,000, but in the evening you might have 10 lakhs. Okay, right? Cash is actually changing, right? And also, if you take stocks, the quantity of stocks that you have, you might have 100 units of material at the morning in the morning, right? But in the evening you might have some stocks coming in, so it changes. That's the difference between these fixed capital and working capital. Understood? That's the difference between fixed capital and working capital. And also another example we could take for working capital, the bank balances that you have, the bank balances that you have. No, right, right. You have certain bank accounts. In those bank accounts, you have certain balances, right? Those are also coming under working capital, right? So students, this working capital or these assets coming under working capital, we normally classify them under current assets, right? Fixed capital in the balance sheet, we put them under non-current assets, right? Under non-current assets, right? Non-current assets, non-current assets, right? If you take this working capital, most of the elements of the working capital is captured under current assets. Current assets. Current assets. Right? Okay. Right. So in accounting, you will be learning why certain assets are coming under current assets and non-current assets. The same scenario, but you will learn in a deeper way. Right? Okay. I don't want to go to that extent because we are learning business studies. Just wanted to show you that connection. Understood? Right. Okay, students. Now, did you all get the understanding about capital very well? Okay. Right. Good. How about online students? Did you get the understanding about capital very well? Yes. Can I get a small thumbs up? Can I get a small thumbs up? All good? Right. Okay, fine. Good. All right. Now, students, will move on to the next resource. I told you we are discussing each factor of production or each resource one by one. Okay, right. Now, let's talk about entrepreneurship, the fourth resource that we will be discussing. Right, right. Entrepreneurship, right? Entrepreneurship. අපි සාමාන්‍යයෙන් සිංහලෙන් කියනවා ව්‍යවසායකත්වය, right? ව්‍යවසායකත්වය. ව්‍යවසාය khatwaya, entrepreneurship, right? Entrepreneurship, right? So basically, what is entrepreneurship? I hope you all have heard about entrepreneurship, because nowadays entrepreneurship is something which is very popular, a hot topic in the society, right? Okay, hot topic in a society, right? Where everyone wants to start business, right? New businesses, new things, right? So with that, we tend to talk a lot about entrepreneurship. Okay, right? So what do you mean by entrepreneurship? Let's read the definition. Okay, right? Now, students, this definition you all have to keep it in your mind. Right now, this is the thing. You all don't have to by heart this definition. Okay, in business studies, don't by heart anything. Okay, right? We're learning business. We're learning business. So you got to understand each concept practically. That is my theory, right? Even when I'm teaching also, why I'm taking a lot of examples, because I want to teach this subject practically. I don't want to dump you with a lot of theories and concepts. No, that is not business studies, right? I want to teach you in the modern way. I want to bring you that practical experience or practical way of how businesses are happening. Then it will be very easy for you to remember it. Remember these concepts very nicely. Okay. So make sure don't by heart, but understand the concept practically. Right. When I say an example, you can note that example in your tune. Then later, when you're studying, you might not be able to remember the concept, but you might remember the example which I told you. Right. Right. So in that case, try to learn business studies practically. That's my suggestion, or that's my advice to all of my students, and that will work. That will make wonders. Okay, right? Okay, what is entrepreneurship? Let's read the definition. Right, let's read the definition. Okay, right. Entrepreneurship means organizing and leading. Organizing and leading factors required for the production of what? Of goods and services. Now, you know, goods and services means products. Okay. Entrepreneurship is is a diverse role, right? Right, right, right. Where you have to lead, you have to get the leadership, right? For what? To manage all of these factors of production, right? Now we have been discussing different types of resources, no? Right? We have been discussing different types of resources, ne? Land, labor, capital, right? Now entrepreneur, there are some other things also we are going to learn next, right? So there should be some level of knowledge, right, for certain individuals to manage all of these factors of production, right? Because I told you, if these factors of production is not being managed properly, they will go into waste. That's a problem, because these factors of production are scarce. You cannot waste them. So there should be some level of knowledge, different types of individuals who should lead this process in terms of obtaining these factors of production, use them without wasting them, organize them accordingly among individuals. Person A, you use these resources. Person B, I will allocate you these resources. Use them wisely. That is called entrepreneurship. It is more of a leadership and a guiding role. Right, 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 right. So the person who is engaging in entrepreneurial activities, right, is called an entrepreneur. Right? Vyavasayakaya කියලා කියනවා. Right? Vyavasayakaya කියලා කියනවා. Right? So normally students, if you take this entrepreneur is a person who would like to take risks. Right? Right? Entrepreneur is not a person who is like who is a risk averse person. Risk averse කියලා කියන්නේ අවදානම් ගන්න කැමති නැති. Right? Risk averse. Right? He's scared of risks. But if you look at an entrepreneur, he's a risk seeker. He wants to take risks. He wants to do something new, which has not been done earlier. Right? Right? He's a person like that. Right? Right? He has a good vision. Right? Right? He has a good vision. When he has a good vision to do something new, then he has a nice plan, and then he will start allocating these factors of production very nicely, organize them. Right? As an entrepreneur, no point of having that risk taking capability of doing something new. On top of that, you got to execute it also. Plan at the execution, you got to understand how to allocate these factors of production, how to lead this process of allocating these factors of production, organizing the activities to achieve your plan. Okay, right? So risk taking and making decisions related to the business are the main functions of an entrepreneur. Right? As an entrepreneur, he will take the authority, or he will take the lead to make decisions for the betterment of the organization. That's why we call him that he's a risk taker. At certain points, he has to take certain risks and make certain decisions. Okay, right? And make certain decisions. So this is called entrepreneurship. Right? So I mean, in Sri Lanka, we have very good entrepreneurs. Right? We have very good entrepreneurs. Right? Okay. Right? 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 So we have what do you call the founder of Sparsilon, no? Right? We have the founder of Carnage, right? Right? Right. So likewise, we have very good entrepreneurs in Sri Lanka, right? Not only in Sri Lanka, students, in other countries also we have very good entrepreneurs. The people who found Uber, right? New thing, new thing. And a very good entrepreneur I could mention without any further delay, Elon Musk. Right now, very recently, I think now about Elon Musk, you all know about Elon Musk, right? Okay, the CEO of SpaceX, Tesla, right? Okay, he owns those businesses, right? Now he's the world's first uh, trillionaire, right? He's the world's first trillionaire, right? Not just trillion rupees, right? Right? $1 trillion, huh? $1 trillion, right? Okay, he's the world first trillionaire. He was actually very recently. He was he I mean he became a trillionaire, right? So yeah, he's a very good entrepreneur. Right? Look at the new things that he did, right? He uh, he launched Tesla, right? Right. It was one of the they were like one of the pioneers to initiate electric vehicles into the world. Then SpaceX, right? Right. They're trying to make certain space jets to make space transportation affordable and efficient, right? Okay, right, right, right. So he's doing a lot of things. He's a real entrepreneur, right? From his caliber, we can see entrepreneurship is being portrayed. How he makes decisions, doing new things by taking a lot of risks. He always does a lot of things. Elon Musk, right? He's taking a lot of risks. Sometimes things might fail. Sometimes things might go against what you planned. Now, how many? Now he was experimenting lots of space jets, no? Right? The capsules, no? Right? So they go to the space and they they're getting destroyed, right? Due to certain reasons. But he never gives up. He's putting a lot of money, right? He's putting a lot of money. It's a risk, right? 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 Because to make these space jets, I mean, don't think that it's very what do you call cheap, Like he's spending like millions of dollars. He's what you call spending his fortune actually for one particular space jet. And when it gets destroyed, he doesn't get anything at all. But he starts once again taking risks. Even though what happens, I'm gonna take risks and I'm gonna achieve my final goal. He's an entrepreneur. At the top, he takes the decisions and then he organizes and he manages the employees who are working under him in his business organization. That is called entrepreneurship. Right? Now you got to think whether you are an entrepreneur or not. Okay, whether you are an entrepreneur or not. If you want to become an entrepreneur, you got to think differently, be smart, do new things, and you got to take risks as well. You cannot copy what your colleague is doing, right? No, you cannot do that. Copying is not what is called entrepreneurship. Copying is something, I mean, entrepreneurship is something that is there, that is where you are doing something new by taking lots of risks. But these risks are calculated risks. නිකන් ඔහේ risks ගන්නෙ නැහැ. But you got to have a plan for that. You got to have a plan for that. Understood? Right. So that is called entrepreneurship. Okay, that is called entrepreneurship. Right. Okay, students, next we'll move on to the next resource, which is called knowledge. Right. Danuma. Ne? Danuma. Right? Danuma. Ne? අපි හැමෝටම දැනුමක් තියෙනවනේ නේද? Right? දැනුමක්. Right. What do you mean by knowledge? Knowledge is also an important resource. It is the collective intelligence, talents, and skills of the workforce. Right? Okay. Right. Now, as an individual students, right, we have some level of knowledge about certain things. That is called knowledge. Danuma. Right. Now, I am teaching business studies. Right. So I have good amount of knowledge about business studies. So I have done a degree. From that degree, I have learned the fundamentals of business studies. I have learned the fundamentals of management. I've done a master's, so I have improved my knowledge furthermore. I do work in the industry. No, I work in the industry so that I get experiences. Right? So all are coming onto the knowledge. And the skills that I have, right? Right, right. The skills that you have, unique skills, right? You have certain talents and skills, no? Right, 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 right. So I'm good at presenting, I'm good at lecturing, right? So those are my talents and skills, right? Right. So those are all embedded to knowledge. In your organization, if you take any organization, in any organization, you have diverse or different types of individuals who are having different level of knowledge at different magnitudes. Okay? Right? Certain individuals, they are good at numbers, some are good at marketing, some are good at production. They have level of knowledge in that area, students. They are good at that area. So that is called knowledge. The collective intelligence, right? Right, right, right. Collective intelligence, right? Okay, so that is called knowledge, right? Next, students, next we have the next resource, which is called information. Name another information. Toraturu. Information means what? Toraturu. 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 Right? Very simply, in a business organization, information is very important. Information is very important. Right? 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 Because information will be used in a business organization to do what? To make better decisions. Right? When you are making a decision in a business organization, students, you cannot just make a decision without looking at information. So you got to have accurate information, and with those accurate information, you got to make your decision. Right? More the information that you have, more the accurate information that you have, you can make a very good, meaningful, and an accurate decision. But if you have less information, if you are making a decision, sometimes there might be instances where your decision might go wrong, right? So in that case, students, in your life also, before you make a decision, you got to have proper information, right? You got to have proper information, right? So information is a collection of data, right? It's a collection of data, right? Right? It's a collection of data, right? That has been processed, organized, or structured in a meaningful way, in a meaningful way, right? So students, now if you take information, right, right, before information you have data, eh? You have data, datta කියලා කියනවා, right? You have data, right? You have data like this, right? Data, right? This is data, right? Data is actually scattered everywhere, right? Data is actually scattered everywhere, right? No, right? අපි දත්ත ගත්තොත් එහෙම ඒවා scatter වෙලා තියෙන හැමතැනම. They are not organized. They are not properly structured, right? Right? So you cannot just look at data and make decisions. That be problem. That will be a problem. Because this data is actually not structured or not organized, not meaningful. So if you use data and make decisions, then your decisions might go wrong. What you need to do, you got to organize this data, students. You got to organize this data. You got to organize them, right? You got to organize them, process them in a meaningful way and in a structured way. So this data, let's organize them like this. Right? We are organizing the data. At initial, data was scattered everywhere, but you could make decisions out of it. But after that, what you did, you organize this data. When you organize data in a structured way, we call this as what? Information. We call this as information. Right? Right? Very structured, no, very organized. Not like this, right? 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 Not like this, very disorganized. Right? You cannot make decisions from this. But if you convert this data into structured information, then you can make better decisions. Then you can make better decisions. That's the most important part here. Right? So that's why we are talking about information. Right? That's why information is taken as a collection of data. It's a collection of data. Right? And now it has been processed. Here you go, nicely processed, organized very nicely in a structured and in a meaningful way. Right? So with the use of this information, you can make better decisions. Right? Understood? Right. Okay. All right. Okay. So if you look at what do you call, information could be communicated in various mediums, no, right? When you have structured information, you can communicate it in various forms, either in text formats, images, audio, video, right? Or a combination of all those things could be used to share information, right? Okay, right, okay, right. So this is about information. This is about information. This is about information, right? So if you can just draw this, right? Anyway, students, for information, we have a separate lesson, right? In grade number 13, very simply, at the final parts in grade 13, we will be learning about information systems. So in that, we have a separate lesson, but I told you, we have to learn the fundamentals, right? So just take around 1 minute and just try to put this. Go ahead. And if you all have any clarifications, kindly let me know, students. Kindly let me know, right? Go ahead. I will give you around 1 minute, right? Put them down. Any questions as of now? I hope you all uh, took this graphical presentation in your tude. Okay, right? So I hope you all don't have any questions. Okay, right. So students, now we'll move on to the next and the final factor of production, or I would say the resource, right? Or the input, right? Input that we use for our production process is time, right? Time, time, කාලය, right? කාලය, කාලය, time, right? Okay, right? Okay. So students, if you take time, right? We as human beings, right? We have time, no? On a given day, we have 24 hours, no? Right? Right. So students, time means this captures the time taken by employees, right, to finish off a task, right? When you're working in an organization as an employee students, right, you've been given certain tasks, right? You've been given certain tasks to make reports, to make presentations, right, to achieve a sales target. You'll be given lots of tasks, right? Right. So to execute or to finish that task, you'll be taking time for you. You have been given a task to make a presentation. So you have to make the presentation within just 2 hours. So the time taken to that task, right? You'll be given a monthly sales target to go and do sales 100 units, right? You'll be given 1 month for that. Time taken to achieve the tasks. That is captured under time. Not only employee time, also students. In an organization, there is machine operating time. No, in a production process, you have lots of machines, right? These machines will also take some time to produce, right? To do the cutting, chopping, and everything. It takes some time. That will also be considered here. And not only that, the production time, how long it will take to produce one finished good, right? Production time, right? Production time. Some may take just few minutes. Some may take just hours. Some may take days for the production, right? For the production, right? And then decision making time, eh? Right? In an organization, the top managers, the CEO, the directors, the managers, the low level employees, everyone is making decisions on a daily basis, right? Doing business is that, right? It's all about making decisions about every aspect of your business, right? For you to make decisions, you got to have right information. For you to have right information, first you should have data. Then that data has to be structured and organized, converted into information and make decisions. So that whole process takes a long time, students. That's what we discussed in our previous resource and information. Takes time. So time captures all of these aspects. Don't misjudge yourself that time is only the time taken by employees to finish off the task. No, no, no. In an organization, you will be using time for a lot of activities. Out of those, these are few things, right? Okay. So students, now we have discussed about the inputs in the production process, inputs in the transformation process. We have discussed everything, right? We have discussed everything, right? If you go back to the note, here you go, right? Now that we have discussed all the inputs, right? Inputs are completed, right? Right. Okay. Right. Now, before we move on to the next part of the discussion, where we are going to talk about the business functions, right? Before we move on there, students, do you all have any clarification? All right, students, now we'll move on to the second part of the production process or the transformation process or the input output process. In here, we are going to talk about what? About different business functions. okay, about different business functions, right? The second phase of the input output process, right? So we'll go to the note, right? We'll go to the note, right? Okay, right, right. So students, what are these functions? Huh? What are these functions? Right, right. Now students, I told you in the production process, you start it with the inputs or the resources or the factors of production. You put them into the process, right? Then inside this process, you cannot just put them, no, right? Then automatically you cannot get the output also. There needs to be certain activities that needs to be done or conducted to transform these inputs, into output. There's a conversion which is happening, right? There's a conversion which is happening, right? Right. As an example, right? In a apparel business, right? You put fabric, buttons, right? All those things, right, into the production process, and in the latter part of the process, you get finished clothes like denims, t-shirts, whatever you get. So that is not happening through magic. There's a confirmation, there's a transformation process which is happening. So to transform these inputs into output, there are certain activities that needs to be conducted. Those activities are conducted by these business functions. There are different activities, not only one activity. Different types of activities are there conducted by different types of individuals, right? So those activities are undertaken by these business functions, right? So let's look at what are these business functions and what are the activities that they do in this transformation process. Okay, right. So students, I have given you a table, a summarized table, right? We don't want to complicate things. We always learn business studies in a simple way, right? Right. So I've given you a nice table. On the left hand side, we have different types of functions given. And then on the right hand side, we'll fill with the definition and the activities that they do, right? Okay, if you take the first function is administration function. That is the first function, right? Okay, right. So what is this administration function, right? Now, you don't have to think in a very, very complicated way, right? Even in our day-to-day life also, we administrate certain activities. Just look at your family, right? Just look at your family, right? Your parents are administrating what is happening in the family, no? Right? Right? How to organize the activities at home, ne? How to properly organize them. That is called administration, right? That is called administration, right? So students, in a business organization also, you administrate the activities, right? It's like you organize the activities in the business organization, right? So you can write the definition in here, right? Administration means, you can write the definition here: maintain documents, right? Maintain documents related to business activities and maintaining communication. Maintain documents related to business activities and maintaining communication. Maintaining communication, right? You can write that, right? Okay. I hope you all wrote it down, right? I'll write the main points, right? Right. Maintaining documents, right? Maintain documents, right? And then maintain communication, maintain communication, right? Okay. All those things are done here, right? It's all about how you organize the activities in your business, because your business organization might be very big, students, right? If your organization is very big, right, you have to maintain documents properly, right? Right? It could be in manual formats, or it could be in e-formats. You got to maintain. Even the employees also, you got to maintain their details. You got to maintain details about different departments, right? Right. So everything has to be maintained here. The administration activities, right? About funding and all those things has to be maintained, right? And also you have to maintain communication also, because in your organization you have different functions. Among these functions, communication has to be there, because everyone is working towards one common goal. So in that case, everyone has to align with the same goal. So communication matters a lot for that. So that is done under administration. Okay, right. Next one, the second function, right? A very popular function, which is the production or the operation function. What do they do? Right? What do they do? They are fully focused on converting the resources into finished goods, right? So or the operations will always take place in a factory where you get the resources, you store them properly, and then you add it to the production, convert them into finished goods, right? That's where the production happens. So you can write here production or the operation, which means you can write definition: process that converts, process that converts, process that converts resources into resources into converts resources into goods and services, goods and services, goods and services. Okay, right. So under production, right, there are a lot of things that you need to do, right, based on the product that you produce, right? There are different types of production methods that you need to use, right? Right. How to schedule your machines, right? Then you got to think about the quality of the material, how to store your material, how to maintain inventories, right? Right. How to plan your factory layout, eh? Right? Right. All those things have to be considered, right? All those things have to be considered. So don't worry, students. Don't worry, because for each function, we have a separate lesson to learn, right? We have a separate lesson to learn about each function. Even though we learn the fundamentals here, we have a separate lesson to learn. So all these functions will be learned lesson by lesson in grade 13. In grade 13. So basically, uh, administration will be discussed in management, which is lesson number 12, right? Production and operation will be discussed under operations management, which is lesson number 13, right? Okay, right. And then we'll move on to marketing, right? So what is marketing, right? So if for marketing also we have a separate lesson, we'll be learning it under lesson number 14. Okay, right, right. So I will just explain you very simply what is marketing, right? Right. What is marketing, right? Marketing is, students. Now, some people think marketing is about putting advertisements on television, right? Or some people think marketing is about maintaining a Facebook page, right? Right. Or some people think marketing is all about distributing leaflets. No, those are different activities that you do in marketing, right? Marketing is a huge subject, right? It's a huge and a very interesting subject, right? Right. So what is marketing? Very simply, students. right? What is marketing? Marketing means very simply, right? Even though there are a lot of things that you need to learn in marketing, what you need to do is first thing you got to understand the customer needs and wants. No, right? Right. Before you put out a product to the market, you got to understand what the customer exactly requesting from you, right? Based on the customer needs and wants, you have to offer a product accordingly, right? Identifying customer needs and wants and then offering a product accordingly so that you could make your customers happy. That is called marketing. That is called marketing. Okay, very simply, that is called marketing. Even though I told it in one or two sentences, it's a very big uh, lesson that you need to learn, right? Right. You will learn about marketing now for advanced level. You will learn about marketing for your higher studies. Then MScs, MScs, MBAs, and PhDs. You learn about marketing. Marketing is a very, it's like the ocean, right? Full of concepts, interesting subject to learn. But one simple theory in marketing. What is marketing? Identify what customer needs and wants. What do they want? Based on that, you offer a product accordingly. Right? You offer a product accordingly. Right? Right? That is called marketing. Okay? Right? So now you know marketing is not only advertising on television or putting on social media or maintaining a Facebook page. Those are just few things that we use in marketing, right? To promote our product. Understood? Right. Okay. So, right, you can write marketing, identifying customer needs and wants, right? Identifying customer needs and wants, identifying customer needs and wants, right? Identify customer needs and wants, identify customer needs and wants, and offering a product, offering a product, offering a product to satisfy them. Offering a product, right? Offering a product to satisfy them, to satisfy. Very important. Okay. So that is what we do in marketing. That is what we do in marketing. Okay. Right. All right. Let's move on to the next function, which is called finance function, right? Which is called finance function, which is also another lesson that we learn in grade 13. Uh, so finance is actually, you have a separate lesson called financial management. Okay. So this is actually lesson number 15. Okay. Lesson number 15. So what is finance? Oh, pretty interesting. You're dealing with numbers, right? You're dealing with numbers. In finance, finance is all about numbers, and some people say finance is boring, but finance is all about what? Storytelling with numbers. I would put it in that way. Finance is all about storytelling with numbers. If you put that to your mind, finance will be a very interesting area. Okay, it's about storytelling in numbers, right? Okay, right. Finance. Okay, right, right. Finance. Okay. So in finance, what we do? All the activities related to what? Recording transactions, documenting them, right? Right, documenting them, and also controlling the performance of the business in terms of financial terms. No, right, right, right. No point of just gathering documents and record keeping. You got to control your financial performance. No? If the organization's cost is very high, that will be highlighted in your financial reports that you prepare. So it gives you an alarming situation. So you got to do something. If you're in finance, you got to find the root cause why the cost is increasing. Because if the cost is increasing, sometimes it might lead to a loss in your business organization, right? Right. So you got to understand why the cost is continuously increasing. You got to find ways to control the cost there. And also on top of that, you got to understand where the revenue is being generated, where the money is coming in. Okay, where the money is coming in, right? You got to find ways to increase your revenue, right? Right. Right. So I told you, finance is all about storytelling with numbers, right? Okay, right, right. So right, you can write finance under the definition. You can write the activities related to managing money in a business, right? Managing money in a business, activities related to managing money in a business, managing money, right, right, to manage money, no, right. It's very important. Managing money in a business, recording transactions, right? Recording transactions, right? Very important. In finance, it's very important for you to record transactions, right? Record transactions, because that's where the double entry system comes in. Accounting standards, they do come in, right? Right. That's where accounting standards, double entry systems, all those things comes in, right? And then documentation, and then documentation, right? Documentation is there, right? This is why I told you, right? Finance is all about storytelling with numbers, right? You got to document the numbers properly. And with those numbers, if you document them properly, you can tell nice stories about your financial performance in your organization. A key task in finance function, right? And then on top of that, I told you controlling, analyzing and controlling, you can write analyzing and controlling business performance. You can write analyze and controlling, analyze and controlling business performance, analyze and controlling business performance, right? Analyze and control business performance, right? Okay, I told you how to analyze the financial figures, no? Right, when you prepare under documentation, right, we are preparing all the financial statements, no, right? uh, Income statements, statement of financial position, statement of changes in equity, all those things are documented. With those financial statements, you can analyze and see, right? Compared to the previous year, what is the profitability of this year? Compared to previous 5 years, what is the revenue that we have generated this year? You can analyze, right? Why? You have nicely documented them through financial statements, right? Through financial statements, right? You can use these financial statements because everywhere we prepare the financial statements in the same way, accordance with these standards, accounting standards. So you can analyze and compare your performance, your financial performance with the previous years, how good that you have done. If not, you can find any variances, and then you can control your business performance. If the cost has increased, find the root causes where the cost has increased and find ways to reduce it. If you want to increase the revenue compared to previous years, your revenue has dropped. Where did we go wrong? Find those and then implement actions to increase the revenue. Okay, analyzing and controlling. That is coming under finance. That is coming under finance. Next, we have human resource, right? So, human resource also we are having a separate lesson. So, which is actually we have 12 for management, 13 for operations management. Then we have marketing, uh, financial management, and human resource management. This is lesson number 15. This is lesson number 15. Okay. Very specifically in this lesson, we are going to learn about what? People. How to manage people, right? How to select people to your organization, employees, no? How to select employees to your organization? What are the criteria that needs to be there, right? How to train them, how to develop them, how to keep them happy. All those things will be captured under human resource. So you can write attraction, selection, right? Attraction, you can write attraction, selection, attraction, selection, recruitment, training, right? Recruitment, training, and welfare. You know, Sevaka Supasadhane, Sevaka Supasadhane, welfare. Very important. You have to treat the employees well. Okay. So all those things we are doing under human resource. Okay. Right. Right. Okay. Right. So don't worry. We are going to talk about each of these concepts one by one when we are discussing about lesson number 15. Right. 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 So don't worry about the gravity of these. Right. Don't worry. I'm just simply explaining y'all. Simply explaining y'all. Okay. Right. Next, students, we have research and development function. Sort of an interesting function. Research and development, right? Research and development, right? Sort of an interesting function, actually. What do we do here? We do a lot of research, right? We do a lot of research. Research of what? Now, students, in your business organization, you have a product which is being offered, existing product. Yeah? Let's take Apple, right? Let's take Apple as an example. If you take Apple, right, they have an existing portfolio right now. They have their mobile phones which is being offered to the market. No, Apple iPhone, I think 17 has been released, right? They have a set of mobile phone that has been released, right? Then they have laptops, Macs, right, right, iMac, right. Then what else they have, right? Different types of accessories they offer, right? Okay. So in research, what we are trying to do is first we are going to focus on, first we are going to research on how to improve our existing products that has been offered to the market. Apple is actually doing a lot of things to improve the quality of the products that is being offered to the market. No, that's why can you see when you use these Apple phones, Apple devices, you get software updates. No, Apple updates you get. No, those are new, those are developments which is being executed to improve the quality of the existing Apple products that is there in the market. So you have to update the software, ne? So they will fix certain bugs, they will give you more security, they will give you more features. That is for the existing. So for that you got to do research. You have to do research and find how are we going to improve the quality furthermore of the existing products, right? Of the existing products, right? And then there's another part. Apple would be looking ahead or researching things on what to do in the future, the new developments, new developments. Now Apple is coming up with the next mobile phone series, no, Apple 18, no, right? Okay. So we don't know what they will do next, right? We don't know whether it's an invisible phone, right? A development, right? Right, right. We don't know whether the mobile phone is going to be very slim. We don't know. It's going to be a development. For the new products, what are they going to do? So for that, they got to do research. They have to look at the product. They have to look at the market. You have to gather information what the customer exactly wants now, right? In a mobile phone, in a smartphone. So you got to research about it, and then Apple has to offer the very latest 18. If they don't do proper research and offer the Apple 18 to the market without doing any research, sometimes the mobile phone might be a failure, right? Right? Because it depends on whether the customer buys or not. No, customer will not buy the latest Apple mobile phone if it does not have much features or new features. So you got to develop. So students, research and development focuses on how to improve value or quality in the existing products, and also what can we do new in the future developments. Okay, so that is called research and development. You can write improving quality. You can write with me. Improving quality. Improving quality of existing products. Improving quality of existing products. Quality of existing products. Existing products. And improving quality of existing products and innovating new products, right? Innovating. I didn't use the word development because innovation is like more of a bigger word than developing, right? Innovating new products, right? Right. Innovating means what? You're coming up with a very new product, which is very new to the market, which is very new to the customers. Okay? I told you, right? To come with a new thing. Innovate. It's not about copying what Samsung is doing and what Huawei is doing and Apple is pretty. No, not copying. You got to do something new. You don't know what will happen, right? Right. You don't know what will happen when Apple 18 is coming. Okay. Right. Okay. That is called innovation. Next, we have students information management, another function in a business organization, right? Managing information, right? Okay, can you remember, students, one of the main resources that we discussed, one of the main inputs that we discussed was what? Information, right? So managing information is very hard, okay, right? Because there's a huge process, right? For you to develop information, first you have to gather data, structure them, and then you have information, right? And then information management will not stop from there. You get the information, and then there should be proper processes to disseminate this information, right? Share this information at the right point in time to different individuals to make decisions only for the people who are needing them, right? Very important, because we cannot let information go to wrong hands. That has to be considered. Very important. How to do that? Not only that, from that, how are we going to back up our information? Because some information we might not use them now, but might be valuable in the future. How are we going to back up them? If you are backing up information, it's these days it's very problematic. Why? You have unnecessary hacking, no, unauthorized people logging into the systems and stealing information, no, right? So these days we heard a lot about those, right? Right, 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 right. So we got to secure them also. So we have certain security platforms, firewalls which are being built, right, for unnecessary hacking and all those things, right? Okay. So information management is that, student. It's not about only getting the data and converting them into information, but it goes beyond that. sharing the information to the right person, secure those information properly without getting into the hands of the wrong people. Okay, because information is very important nowadays, right? Information is very, I told you, if you have right information in a business organization, you can make better decisions, good decisions, accurate decisions. Understood? Right. Okay, so you can write under information management, you can write collecting data, collecting data and information, collecting data and information, collecting data and information, processing, processing, storing, right? Processing, storing, and utilizing, and utilizing, right? And then there's another activity that we do under information management. You got to update data as well. Update data, right? Because nowadays, students, the business environment is changing day by day. Sometimes the information that you gather and store today might be might have changed in the future. We don't know, right? So you got to update the data because nowadays the business environment is dynamic. It changes time to time. Okay, right. All right, students. So this marks our discussion about business functions, right? Right. Now I told you, students, these business functions, right? So we very specifically spoke about administration, production, marketing, finance, human resource, research and development, information. All of these business functions, students, right, is very, very important for the progress of your business. Or is very, very important in terms of converting your inputs into outputs, because each and every one of these functions have a separate task to do. No one is actually sharing any functions. No, no, right? If you take human resource, they don't do any marketing. If you take finance, they don't do any research. And every function has their own tasks which needs to be executed, those what we discussed here, right? So all of these tasks are conducted for what? To convert your inputs into proper outputs. So which means each of these functions has to work together, work together, work together, communicate properly, right? Should have a proper team unity. Then only at the end of the day, everyone could achieve the common goal of the business, right? Okay. So when you're going to work for an organization, students, based on the skills that you have, you will be put into one of these functions, right? Right. If you're good in finance, if you have knowledge in finance, then you will be put into the finance department. That's where you are good at. If you're good in marketing, if you're good in marketing, right? You know the theories, you have degrees in marketing, you have experience, then you'll be put into marketing. So you can give your input, right, to the production process, right? So that ultimately you get a better product at the end of the day, right? Okay, right. Okay, students. So these are about business functions. These are about business functions. Okay, right. So we'll move on to the note, right? We'll move on to the note, right? Okay, right. So now, now that we have a very good understanding about the production process, right? What is production process? Production process is the operational process that we conduct in order to convert the inputs into outputs, okay, through different types of activities conducted under each business function. So that of course we discussed just now, right? Now, students, for you to get a very good understanding about this production process, right, about this transformation process, uh, I have taken a practical example uh, by taking the tea industry in Sri Lanka into consideration. So we are going to look at through an example how the transformation process or how this production process, how this input output process will be conducted in the tea industry in Sri Lanka, right? Okay, so that you can get a very good elaboration about this process practically. All right, okay, right. So we'll move on to our notepad. We'll move on to our notepad, right? Okay. Now, as you can see, right, I have put on the structure for the input output process, right? We know the structure. So we are very specifically apply this structure to the tea industry in Sri Lanka, right? Okay, tea industry, right? Tea industry, tea industry. So in here, we're going to look at how tea leaves are being plucked and how these tea leaves are converted into world famous Ceylon tea, right? And we will be looking at under each business function what are the activities which is conducted, right, to make this process a viable one, right? Okay, good. So basically, first let's look at the inputs, right? First, let's look at the inputs or the resources or the factors of production that we use in this tea industry to produce Ceylon tea and distribute it to the customers all across the group, right? So when it comes to the tea industry students, right, now you all can be interactive, right? You all can let me know, right? You all can let me know what are the examples for each factors of production because you all are, I mean, you all know this industry a lot. This is very popular, right? So students, tell me when it comes to the tea industry, what are the natural resources that we use in the production process when it comes to this industry, right? Yes, what can you say? So very specifically, the most important natural resource we use is the tea estates, no? Right? Tea estates, right? 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 Tea estates, right? So if you go to Norelia, right? If you go to Norelia area, Muskelia, right? That here hill country area, right? You'll be able to see lots of tea estates, right? Lots of tea estates with tea bushes are being cultivated in those. Very nice scenery out there, right? So tea estates where tea bushes are cultivated, right? Cultivating tea bushes, right? Okay, right. So under land we can put that. Under land we can put that, right? Tea estates where tea bushes have been cultivated, right? And also you can have some other things like now you need land, right? You need land to make your factories, no, tea factories and all, right? Tea factories and the offices. If you want to build them, you need to have a proper land. So that also can be taken here. We are using natural resources, right? We are using natural resources, right? Then what can you say about labor? Right? Labor means what? The human efforts that is used in the tea production process, right? So when we talk about labor, when it comes to tea industry, what very specifically comes to our mind is about the tea pluckers, no? The famous picture of uh, tea pluckers, right? What do you call hanging a bucket, what do you call behind their shoulders and plucking the tea, right? Isn't it right? So that's human effort, right? Human effort. So you can write the tea pluckers, right? The tea pluckers. What else, students? What else? Tea pluckers, right? Not only tea pluckers, on top of that, there are workers who are working in the factory, right? Who are handling machines, right? Who are doing other types of manual labor activities, right? In terms of putting these tea leaves into different machines for drilling and for drying and all those things. You need factory workers. So that is also coming under labor. Factory workers, factory workers, right? Factory workers, right? Right. I hope most of y'all have gone into a what do you call tea factory. How many of y'all have been to a tea factory? Yeah, exactly. Most even I have been to, uh, TFT factories, right? So it's a different kind of experience, right? You get to what do you call see the process, how it works, right? And one person will explain how this tea process is working, and you get to try some tea at the end of the session as well. So yeah, so it's a very good experience. If you have not gone to any of the tea factories, please do visit when you go to Nuwara, Muskelia, Talawakale, that area, right? You can get that experience, right? Right, right. So factory workers. On top of that, students, what can we say, right? Now, inside these tea estates and inside these factories, you have supervisors, right? You have supervisors, right? You have supervisors, no? Supervisors, right? You have supervisors who are actually supervising or guiding the workers to do their tasks properly. Okay, right, right. And then we have on top of that estate managers, no, right? Those who own the estates and estate managers are there. Those who are responsible for the entire management of the estate, right, and the factory and everything, right? We have estate managers, right? Estate managers, estate managers, right? What else? What else? Now, labor is not only not only what do you call the efforts which is put by the factory workers or the tea pluckers. Other people will also put their efforts, right? Okay. And also on top of that, we have people like the drivers, no, drivers who are driving different types of tractors and lorries and everything to bring these tea leaves to the factory, and also the finished tea packets to the market. So we need drivers for that. Okay, we need drivers for that. So students, these are few of the human efforts that I could identify under the category of labor, under the category of labor. And also you can put now when it comes to we were talking about mainly the factory and everything, no? On top of that, there could be people working in different departments, no? Now we have, when it comes to tea, we have Dilma, Bugavanthalapa, Lipton, right? Different types of tea companies are there in Sri Lanka. In those companies, when you come to the head offices, right, located in Colombo, there are people working there who are handling the finance functions, marketing, right? Then what do you call research and development, right? There are people working in labs doing research and development activities. Those will also be taken under labor, right? Those people will be also taken under labor because it's human effort at the end of the day. Not only the production, right? Under each of these business functions where we discussed earlier, there are people working, putting some level of effort. So all of these things can be taken into consideration. So I have taken only few of them. You can add to the list. Okay, all right. Now we'll move on to capital, right? Now we'll move on to capital, right? Give me 1 second. Right. Now students will move on to capital, right? Right, right. So what do you mean by capital, right? Money and the assets that will be invested in the business organization for the growth of the business, right? Now, fixed capital is there, working capital is there. So what can you say, right? Yes, we have tea processing machines. Yes, right? We need different types of machines to process tea, right? Tea processing machines. Very, very good, right? Right. If you all have been to a tea factory, you get to find big machines, right? Some machines are there to what you call dry the tea leaves. No, when you bring the tea leaves, first we need to dry them at a particular temperature. So there are several drying machines, right, and there are, on top of that, there are certain sorting equipments also, right? Sorting equipments, right, so you can write that as well, right? Sorting equipments, right? Sorting equipments, right? To sort these tea leaves from tea powder or half blended tea, there are sorting equipments for that. Okay. Then what can you say? What are the other types of capital that you can use? The factory, yes, the factory which is being built, right, right. So students, I think, I mean, these factories are very nice, right? I mean, I mean, it's like right in the middle of a what do you call a land filled with lots of tea bushes, and you have a factory out there, and you have a nice scenery and a nice view of mountains. It's actually a different view, I would say. You should go and experience it, right? And also the picture will be what do you call uh, I mean, exaggerated more when the climate is also kind of gloomy and all, right? So it's a different kind of an experience, right? Okay. So you have factories can be taken under capital. The vehicles can be taken under capital, and then money, right? The money that you put in, the money that you invest to build all these tea estates, to harvest, you have to put money, right? So money is also coming under capital, right? Right. So you can put all the fixed capital and working capital under capital, and also you can use what you call inventories, no, inventories, right? Stocks, say inventory, right, right. So you will have stocks of tea leaves which has been freshly plucked, right, which has been freshly plucked. And also on top of that, once the production process is over, we have stocks of finished tea powder or tea packets that is ready to go in the market. So those are coming under inventory. Those are all capital. Those are all capital. Okay, right. Then students, let's move on to entrepreneurship, right? Vivasayakatve. What can you what can you add to the list of entrepreneurship as inputs in the tea production process? Right now, what is entrepreneurship? Entrepreneurship, it's a process of what? Taking risks, taking new opportunities, and trying to introduce new things to the market, right? Trying to do new things. That is called entrepreneurship. The person who is doing these things is being called as an entrepreneur. Vivasayaka. All right. And this entrepreneur has to organize, right? This entrepreneur has to this entrepreneur has to organize, right, and combine all of these resources together to get a very good output at the end of the day without wasting any resources. That's the main task of an entrepreneur. That's the main task of an entrepreneur, right? Okay. So under entrepreneurship, what can we take? What can we take? So basically, students, entrepreneurship will take things into consideration, like the main decisions, right? The main decisions taken by the owners and the managers, right? Decisions, right? Decisions, right? Decisions taken by the owners and the managers, right? On what? On what? I mean, these entrepreneurs in the tea industry, right? Or these owners and managers in the tea industry, they will have to make very critical decisions, right? Very critical decisions. Like what? Like what? Right? Like what? What can you say? So we could say, I mean, they would take decisions in terms of introducing new tea products, no? Introducing new tea products, no? Right? So apart from the traditional tea, we have what do you call flavored tea, infused tea, right? with all these different types of spices, different types of fruit flavors we have tea. So for you to do that, you got to make decisions, right? So that decision might be a little bit risky also, because I mean people are used to drink traditional black tea, right? But now you're trying to do new things, right? It's a new decision, it's a new opportunity in the market, so you got to make decisions on introducing new tea varieties. So you can write new tea varieties, right? You can say, right, new tea varieties. What else? What else? Right? Sometimes these owners and managers will have to make decisions on investing in modern technology, no, right? So we cannot always rely on the traditional tea processing mechanisms, right? We got to use new technology so that we could improve the quality of the tea that we produce, or improve the final production number of units. So we got to use this technology. So for that, these technologies are quite expensive. So for that, you got to make a decision whether to invest in those or not, right? Right. So that is also very important decision, right? Investing in new technology, investing, you can write with me, investing new technology, right, 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 right. Or else, if the tea production or the tea market is doing really well in Sri Lanka, then you can actually focus on going into other countries also. Maybe see Dilma tea in a lot of countries, right? We are known for Dilma tea, right, right, and lots of tea, a lot of tea is been exported to other countries like Australia, Middle East, Gulf, right? You name it, UK, right? So in that case, you can make decisions in terms of entering into international markets, right? International markets, right? International markets, right? International markets, right? So students, you cannot make these types of decisions within just few minutes. No, you can't do that. You have to take time. You got to do a lot of analysis. You got to evaluate the amount of the risk that you are going to take here, right? Will it be possible? Will it be feasible? All those things should be taken into consideration when you are making the decision. That's where entrepreneurship comes in. If you are a person who is like sort of not, or who is very reluctant to take risk ගන්න බයයි නම් මේ වගේ decisions ඔයා ගන්නෙ නැහැ. Then you are not an entrepreneur. An entrepreneur will always take risk. We'll do it and see with a proper plan, with a proper analysis. So that is captured under entrepreneurship. That is captured under entrepreneurship. Right. Okay. Right. So as of now, students, do you all have any clarification? Do you all have any clarification? Or is everything okay? Can I get a small feedback? Is everything all right? Okay, good. Right. Okay. So then what can you tell about knowledge? Right? Right. Let's go to the input of knowledge, right? Right. Right. Knowledge. Right. What do you mean by knowledge? Right. Knowledge means the technical expertise that you have, the skills that you have, right? Right. Right. That is when you take all of these things together, the knowledge, the skills, the technical expertise, experience, all of these things together, it can be taken as knowledge. Okay, right. So what can you put under the category of knowledge? What can you put under the category of knowledge, students? To tell me, right? Right. What can you put under the category of knowledge? Hmm? So you all can give me an understanding. You all can try. Yes, right. Yes, yes. What is it? Right. Okay. Right. So basically, students, very good answer. Right. Now, for you to cultivate tea, you got to have a knowledge about it. Right. You got to have some knowledge about tea cultivation. Right. So in that case, without any knowledge, I mean, can we go buy a land in New Delhi and harvest tea or cultivate tea. No, we cannot do that. We don't have that knowledge, right? නිකන් අපිට නිකන් ඔහේ අපිට තේ වගා කරන්න බෑ. There should be some level of knowledge, because if you want to grow tea, there should be a particular climate condition, and then before you plant the tea, before you plant that, you have to sort the ground properly, right? Right. You have some fertilizers for that, right? There's a process that you need to follow, right? So and once you plant the tea leaves, you got to nurture them for a particular period of time. For that, right? For that, you should have some level of knowledge, right? So knowledge about tea plantation, right? Knowledge about tea plantation, right? Or let's say tea cultivation knowledge, right? That's a real word. Tea cultivation knowledge. What else? What else? Then you got to have an understanding or knowledge about pest control, right? Pest control, right? Pest control knowledge, right? Right, right, right. Time to time, certain diseases might be spreaded across these tea bushes. Then it'll endanger the entire land, right? It will affect the entire land. So you got to eliminate them. So for that, you got to have some knowledge about pest control, right? Right, right. Pest control, right? Then you got to have some knowledge about, we say, when you are processing tea, you got to have some knowledge about blending, no? Tea blending, no? Blending techniques, right? Blending techniques, right? Blending techniques, right? You got to have some knowledge about blending techniques as well, right? Because there are different types of tea. Traditional tea is there, then you have green tea, right? So different types of tea is there. When you are blending different varieties of tea, you have different parameters or different ways of blending them, right? Then only you can get the maximum what you call quality of that tea variety. So you got to have some knowledge about blending tea, right? Right, right. And also, students, we do all these things in the production process. On top of that, you got to have some knowledge about marketing, tea marketing, right? If you are trying to take tea into a different country, then you got to have some knowledge about how am I going to market Ceylon tea in that particular country, let's say Australia, right? Right. What are the preferences of the consumers? You got to have some knowledge, right? So tea marketing, right? Tea marketing, right? Right. Tea marketing, right? Right. And also you got to have some knowledge on how to manage the costing, how to manage the costing of the processors so that we could make a profit out of it. You should have some financial knowledge as well, sound financial knowledge, because you have done a lot of investments in machines, right? In equipments, right? So how can I get a return out of it, right? Do I need to focus only on traditional tea, or do I need to go for different varieties of tea, right? So you got to have some financial knowledge to do that financial analysis on how to end up with a profit as well, because we do it with a passion, but at the end of the day we are doing a business. We got to have some level of knowledge on how are we going to transform this tea business into a profitable venture. So financial knowledge, right? Financial knowledge is another factor that you can take, right? Financial knowledge, right? I hope you are what do you call listing all these things down with me, right? Okay, right. Then students will move on to time. Will move on to time. What can you tell about the time? The inputs that we offer in terms of time. Time means this is the time which is required by the factory workers, the time which is required by the tea pluckers, right? Right? The time that will take for the harvest. No, the time means not only for the factory workers, but the time that is taken in general by everyone throughout this process. So what can you say, right? Right. So basically, you can take the what do you call the time period for that is taken for the harvest, right? Cultivation, cultivation time. No, cultivation time very important, because you plant tea leaves, you plant the tea today, right? Right. But you don't get the harvest tomorrow. No? It will take some time for these tea plants to mature and give you the harvest. Ne, අර තී දළු ටික ලස්සනට දෙන්න, it will take some time, right? So should be taken here. The cultivating time, right? Okay, right, right. For the tea to mature, right, right. Before we plug them or process them, right? And also the time taken by the factory workers, right? The time taken by the tea pluckers, the factory workers, no, for these tea pluckers, it takes a long time. So normally they go to the tea estates early in the morning, right? Early in the morning, right? That's why when you're going on trips early in the morning, you see these tea pluckers in the tea estates plucking tea leaves, right? So time taken by them to pluck the tea leaves, right? So you can write tea pluckers time, right? Tea plucking time. You can write tea plucking time, right? Right. Then in the factory, it takes time, no, for the machines to process them, ne? Right? For the machines to dry the tea leaves, for the machines to sort them, ne? Blend them. It takes time. So you can write machine time, right? Machine time, right? Okay, right. Then there's another time taken to package this tea, which is being processed into quality packages, attractive packages. It takes time, right? Okay. So packaging time, right? Packaging time, right? And then it takes a time for you to send the finished tea products or these tea cartons, these tea packets to the market, to supermarkets for the customers to buy, right? That's the time taken for distribution, right? Not only Sri Lanka, some tea products are exported to other countries. So for distribution, it takes time. For distribution, it takes time, right? So that is considered under the category of time. So students, I'm repeating once again, these are few of the activities or few of the inputs which I have taken because I have less amount of space to what you call manage. So in that case, you all can add your items to the list as well. Okay, right. Okay, so now we'll move on to information, right? Now we'll move on to information. Okay, so what can you tell about information? Right? What can you tell about information? Right? Information, right? Right. So basically, uh, when you are in the tea industry, this is a very competitive industry. This is a very competitive industry, right? Right. You don't have only one or two players, but there are lots of players. Even in Sri Lanka, you have what you call Bogavantala, Lipton, Dilma, Vatavalla. Different types of tea competitors are there. So in that case, students, you got to have some level of information about the tea prices, no? Local and global tea prices, no? Tea prices, local and global tea prices, right? If you don't have information about these tea prices, which is in local and in global context, then you cannot have a very good competition. Right? Your competitors might price their tea at a very low price, but offering a very good quality, but your one is very expensive. People won't buy, right? So information about global and local tea prices. Okay. And also on top of that, we got to have information about customer preferences. Customer preferences. Isn't it? Right. Right. What do a particular customer request? Right? Or what do a particular customer uh, would would expect from a particular tea in terms of the taste, in terms of the color, in terms of the aroma? No, when you make tea, there's some level of aroma comes in. I like that aroma. Ne, හොඳ සුවඳක් එනවනේ, right? It relaxes you, right? Some people like that. So likewise, you got to have an understanding about what customer prefer through tea. You got to have information about that, right? Okay, right. And then you got to have information about weather forecasts. No, I told you, right? Right. When it comes to tea, right, there's a particular level of climate that needs to be there. So you got to have some level of weather forecast, ne? In the next few months, how is it going to be the weather? No, now I mean we are going to face some sort of a adverse climate condition called El Nino, no? Super El Nino, where the climate is going to be uh, hotter than ever before, right? So you got to have an understanding about those stuff, right? Right. Otherwise, your the entire money will be going down the drain. The money which is invested, if you don't have proper understanding about the weather conditions, right? Right. Right. Then you got to have information about your competitors. Yes, right? Competitors, right? Right. What are the different varieties of tea that they offer? What are the prices? What are the countries that they export? Not only your local competitors, if you are exporting into another country, then in that country, who are the competitors when it comes to tea? They will have also local competitors. Information, right? Information, right? Understood? So students, these are the list of inputs that I could jot down in here according to the industry of tea, according to the industry of tea, right? Okay, now just take around 1 minute, right? Take around 1 minute, right? If you all have any clarification, please do let me know. Please do let me know. Go ahead. All right, students, right? Okay, shall we take things forward? Right. Okay, fine, good. Right. Now, students, we have a very good understanding about the inputs, right? Inputs on this side, right? Okay. Now we'll talk about, right, the next part in our production process, which is the activities conducted by different types of functions, right? Because now don't think that production is the only activity in the process. No, yes, you produce, but once you produce or before producing, you have to get the raw materials in. No, in the tea industry, you have to get the what you call the tea leaves in, ne? Right? You have to organize those activities, and also once the production is done, you have to send these finished tea products into the market. Some has to be exported. So all of these activities has to be there. Then only this whole production process will be completed, right? So don't misguide yourself. This production process or the input output process is only taking into consideration the production function, right? Production function, right? 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 Not only this, right? There are other functions that are conducting different types of activities, support activities, direct activities, just to make sure that you send a very good product to the market. Okay, understood? Right. Okay. Now, students, we'll look at what is being done by each of these business functions. What are the activities conducted by each of these business functions to make sure that the products are distributed to the market properly. Okay, right. Okay, now when it comes to the administration, function, very specifically administration means what? So their main goal or their main purpose is to organize all the activities among different functions and make sure that properly everything is communicated, right, without complicating the process, right? So basically, uh, you can write examples like managing the what do you call, let's say, managing the estate workers, right, managing estate workers, no, managing estate workers, right, 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 managing estate workers, right, right, right. Then, then you can write uh, maintaining documents, right, maintaining documents, no, in terms of everything, right, right, right. Maintaining documents, very important in your in the in your tea factory. You got to maintain certain documents, right, about your suppliers, their contact numbers, their details, right. Then you got to maintain certain documents about uh, your specific orders to different customers, right? Okay, right, right, right. And also on top of that, you got to maintain documents about the employees who are working inside the company, their information, right, 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 right. So all those things has to be maintained. That is done by the administration department. So nowadays, students, nowadays we have we don't manually maintain these documents, right? Now we are in the information era, the technological era. So we have systems. We have systems to we have automated system to manage all these data or manage all these documents, right? Okay, so that is coming under administration. And also the other thing is communicating properly, communication, right, right. Communication is also another activity which is being conducted by the administration department, right? Notices important information, right, about the company activities needs to be communicated properly to each and every employee. It could be through email or whatever the method. So that is also being conducted by administration department, right? Administration department. Understood? Right. Then under production, of course, we know that they are very specifically focusing on doing production activities in terms of converting these raw material into finished goods, right? So in the tea industry, we can see a lot of production activities like plucking, right? Plucking tea leaves, right? Then drying, right? Right? Drying them, then tea packaging, right? Tea packaging, right? Right? Then we have blending all this tea, right? Blending, right? Right? So all those things are considered under production. You pluck the tea leaves, right? Then you bring them to the factory, you dry them, then you what do you call sort this tea powder, right? You add flavors to it, you blend them, and then you package them. All those things are considered here under production, right? Under production activities that is conducted under the production, right? Then what can you say about marketing? What can you tell about marketing, right? What can you tell about marketing, right? Marketing, right? Right. So what is marketing? I told you marketing is not all about advertising on television, or marketing is not all about maintaining a social media platform. Marketing is all about understanding customer needs and wants, and based on that you offer a product so that at the end of the day your customers will be happy. So the marketing department will actually uh, do certain activities like conducting market surveys, right? Conducting market surveys, right? Or let's say, I would say consumer surveys, conducting consumer surveys, right? Right? Why do we conduct this consumer surveys? Just to know what the customer is really expecting, right? Right? Whether the customers are expecting traditional tea or different varieties of tea. So through consumer surveys, you can obtain that knowledge. Understand what the market wants, right? Okay, right. What is being done by the marketing department, right? Right. Then based on that, you make the production department will produce different types of tea. Once those different types of tea is produced, then these types of tea has to be advertised, right? Advertising, no, right? So you see in television, right? You see in social media, right? Right? Lot of companies who are into tea, right? They do advertise a lot, right? With very nice music, right? Very nice music, right? Very nice, what do you call, uh, uh, very nice advertisements I have seen, right? Very nice advertisement. Very recently, I came across a very nice advertisements through Lipton, right? Lipton, they did a lot of advertisements, and then uh, whatever they had certain advertising campaigns, right? So you get to find a lot of advertising campaigns which been conducted through television, through social media, and all those things are considered here, right? Right. All those things are considered here, right? Right. So what else we can do under marketing, right? Under marketing, right? Right. Right. Under marketing, you can design, I would say, attractive packages, right? You can design attractive packages, right? Right. Designing attractive packages, designing, right, attractive packages. No, you see all these tea packages, they're very attractive, right? You get that premium feeling, right? Right, right, right. So likewise, students, under marketing, we do a lot of activities just to make sure that we understand the customer, and based on that, we offer a particular product, a good type of tea to the customers, right. Okay. So later, when we are discussing very specifically about marketing management in lesson number 13, right? We learn something called the STP analysis. STP analysis, right? STP analysis, right? That is called segmentation, targeting, and positioning, right? So very simply, you don't have to worry about STP analysis now. We will be learning about STP analysis when we are discussing about marketing management in grade 13, right? So STP means, students, right? Now in the tea industry, there are different types of markets, right? We call them as segments. No, there are different customers who would like to try traditional tea. There are different types of customers who would like to try infused tea or flavored tea, right? There are different types of customers who would like to try tea for health purposes, like green tea. You know, you have all the shape up tea and all those things, health conscious, right? So likewise, you have different markets even in the tea industry, right? So those are called segments. So as a tea company, you got to find what is the market that you are targeting. What is the market that you are focusing on? Is it the traditional tea market, or is it the health conscious tea market, or is it the fancy tea market like flavored tea and all? So you got to focus, and you got to locate what the market that I'm going to focus on. That is called targeting. You target one market out of those other segments, right? And then positioning means, when you select that particular segment, how can I position my brand in the minds of that people or the consumers in that market? Because in the segment that you have selected, there could be other competitors as well. Then you got to decide how can I win over my competitors and position my brand in the minds of the people. in that segment so that the customers will buy my tea brand and not buying the other competitors' tea brands, right? So that's called positioning, right? Positioning, right? Okay, right. Okay, so STP analysis, that is something that we will discuss elaboratively. So I don't worry. I just wanted to give you a small understanding, right? Then what about human resource activities, right? So as I said, human resource activities will deal with uh, recruiting, right? Recruiting, right? Right? Recruiting people, right? 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 Because in your organization, right? In your tea company, there are different types of people that you need to work. We need tea pluckers, we need factory workers, we need managers. So you got to recruit them, you got to select them to your organization, right? So all those things are done by human resource function, right? Recruiting them, right? And not only recruiting, once recruited, you have to train them, right? Training, right? You have to train these employees because some of these employees who have been selected, right? Some of them might have good amount of exposure, some of them might not have good amount of exposure or experience. So you got to train them, right? You got to train them, right? On top of that, salaries, managing salaries, very important, managing salaries of these people. Not only salaries, they are uh, what do you call welfare facilities, no, right? Right? අපි කියනවා සේවක සුබසාධනයනේ, not only the salary, we need to look after them, we need to keep them happy, right? Some companies, they do have insurance policies, some companies, they do provide food, right? Right, so lots of welfare facilities are there, right? So all those things will be considered by the human resource management, right? Right, for human resource management function, right, there is no favoration. Every employee who is working in any department will be treated equally, will be treated equally, right? So those are few of the things that we do under human resource function, right? Right. So before we talk about human, before we talk about R&D, let's talk about finance function as well, right? Let's talk about finance function as well a bit, right? Right, finance, right? Finance function, right? Finance, right? Okay, right? A very important department, right? A very important function, right? Right. They always focused on numbers, right? Right. Right. Numbers, record keeping, making reports that will show the financial performance of the company, right? So in your tea company, what are the activities that is being conducted by the finance department, right? So they will focus on recording transactions, recording transactions, right? Recording transactions about what? Recording transactions about buying uh, different types of material from different types of supplies. You have to keep records, right? Okay, right, right. And then on top of that, there will be a cost which is being incurred for the processing activities, right, in the factory. So that cost has to be recorded properly. Okay, recording transactions, right, right. Then on top of that, every employee has to be paid a salary. Those things has to be recorded, right? Then once the tea is being produced, they will be sold to the market, right? Then what is the revenue which is being generated? That has to be recorded, right? Recording transactions, right? Recording transactions, right? And then another activity that is done by the finance function is managing cost management, okay, right? If the cost is increasing unnecessarily, that's sort of an alarming situation, right? Because if the cost is increasing but your revenue is not increasing at that rate, right, so that ultimately you go to a loss. So you got to understand what are the unnecessary costs which have been incurred, or what are the cost management techniques that we can use in order to reduce the cost. Because finance function will look into the root causes where the cost is arising and what can we do to manage the cost. right? What can we do to manage the cost and also to maintain the quality of our product? And also on top of that, they will make financial statements, right? Preparing financial statements and other reports. No, right? 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 On a monthly basis, on a quarterly basis, on an annual basis, they prepare financial statements which portrays the financial performance of this entire process, right? From buying raw materials to processing them to getting the output, selling them, what is the profit that we have generated, what is the revenue that we have generated, right? What are the operational costs that we have incurred? All those things are added in the financial statements. That is also another activity of the finance department on the in the in our tea company. Okay, right? All right. Then we'll move on to research and development, R&D. So I will put the short form of it, right? R&D, right? R&D, research and development activities, right? So I told you students, right? 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 Research and development, right? Will focus on two areas. What is the first thing? First, you focus on your existing products. What can we do more to increase the quality of our existing products? That is number one, right? And number two is what can we do to bring new products, right? To introduce new products, right? So those are the main things that they consider. For them to do all those things, they got to research properly, right? They got to research, right? Okay, right? So they have to do research about, let's say, improving what? Improving, improving tea quality, tea quality, can say uh, taste. Hey, you can do certain research activities on how we can improve the quality of the tea that we produce right now. How can you improve the taste of the existing tea that we produce now? Ne? You got to do research for that, right? You have to do lots of research for that, right? අපිට නිකන් එකපාර කරන්න බෑ අපි දැන් අද රස වැඩි කරමු කියලා එහෙම කරන්න බෑ. You got to do a thorough research. You got to read a lot of research articles. Sometimes you might have to visit certain factories in other countries who does these things. Then you have to get a knowledge out of it. Those are all captured under research, right? Right? And also on top of that, students, right, you can develop, right, develop new varieties of tea, new varieties, develop new varieties, right? We have flavored tea, right? We have fruity flavored tea, no, right? Spiced flavored tea, infused tea. Likewise, those are all new products actually. For those also, you got to research a lot, right? Right? Because I mean, let's say in most of the, I mean, in other countries, right? If we take foreign countries, mostly the European market, they would love to have this infused tea or flavored tea, all those things, right? So you got to find ways to learn about those new techniques on how to add new varieties of tea. You got to research about them. Understood? Right? Understood? Right? Okay. Good. Then students, at the end of the day, we have what? Management information management information function, right? Very important, right? So information is very important, no, anyway, when you're doing business, right? Right? For you to make decisions, right? Right? For you to make decisions, right? So in that case, right, as the information management function, right, what do? They will collect data, right? They will collect data about what? Collect data or collect data about customer preferences who are consuming tea in Sri Lanka and in other countries, right? Right? What are the market changes when it comes to the tea industry, right? Right? whether the market is growing. If the market is growing, in which segment is it growing? Is it into traditional tea segment? Is it growing, or the health conscious segment is growing? You have to collect information, right? You have to collect data, right? Once that data is collected, students, those data should be converted into information, right? Converting into information, right? Converting into information, right? Right, right. So all these data has to be converted into information, right? So you have to convert those data into in a structured way, right? And portray those information in reports, presentations, right? About tea, yeah? All these things we are talking about the tea industry now, right? So about tea, right? Okay, right. And then not only that, students, now you have a lot of information. You got to secure or safeguard these information. You got to have certain information systems where you have virus guards and firewalls in place, because if a third party will unnecessary, I mean anonymously, will log into the system, and if they get all this information, you're losing a lot, right? You will lose your trade secrets and everything. So you got to secure these information about T and the information that you have collected. All those things are done by the management information function, right? Okay, right. Now students, can you see, right, how how the inputs and different business functions do work, right? Right, right. Now can you see, if you look at each of these business functions, they will conduct different types of activities, right? Different types of activities. Some activities are direct activities, some activities are indirect activities, right? Right. But ultimately all these activities are conducted with one goal: to produce a good quality tea as the output. Okay, so it is not only the goal of the production function, but it's the goal of all of these functions. They all work together. So administration function has another task to make sure that all of these functions are aligned together, right? Aligned together, united together. So administration function will take the initiative of communicating information among these functions, so that every function is being updated with all the important information, right? Right, right. So in that case, students, every function matters a lot in this process to generate a good quality product at the end of the day, right? Then what about the output, right? Output is very simple. All those things, all those processes are conducted for what? All those processes, all those functions are working together. All these inputs are being put together to obtain what? Right? To obtain what? To produce good quality, right? To produce quality, right? Quality Ceylon tea. Ceylon tea will be produced at the end of the day, right? Quality Ceylon tea will be produced at the end of the day, right? Right, 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 right. So in that you have different categories, right? You have tea powder, no, right? You have tea powder, right? Then you have tea bags, right? Then you have what? What else you have, right? You have flavored tea, no? Flavored tea, right? Infused tea, right? Right. So different varieties of tea is produced. But at the end of the day, our main goal is what? Whatever the variety of tea that you produce, that has to be in good quality. That has to be in good quality. That's the ultimate goal of conducting all these business activities, managing all the employees who are conducting these business activities, and managing all the inputs together to offer a quality product, a reliable product to the market. If this is done properly, then customers will buy your product. If you cheat on this process, then your product will be inferior and your customers will not buy your product. Okay, so in that case, students, production process or the input output process is very, very important for any business organization. So today we took the example of the tea industry, which because I took it because it's a very popular industry in Sri Lanka. Okay, so in that case, students, I hope you understood. I hope you understood the practical application of the input output process or the production process in the industry, very specifically in the tea industry. But you can choose whatever the industry and you can do this exercise. It could be the automobile manufacturing industry, it could be the apparel industry, right? The structure would be the same, but the activities that you conduct and the inputs that you use might be different. Okay, so sometimes students in your examination, they might ask you to uh, find a suitable industry, and they might ask you to write the entire input and output process. Now you don't have to worry. Everything was nicely introduced, explained by taking the tea industry into consideration, right? So I hope all of you all got a very good understanding about this. Right? Okay. All right. Good. So take around 1 minute and read this. And if you all have any clarification, kindly let me know.